Tonight, we travel through the hidden and disturbing stories of New Jersey. These aren't just old ghost tales. They're the kind of stories your parents never wanted you to hear, not because they weren't real, but because they were. They grew up with them, heard them in the dark. Some even saw things they still don't talk about. And when you asked, they said it was just a story, or changed the subject, because maybe silence felt safer. Maybe forgetting was easier. Maybe they were trying to protect you. But the past never stays silent forever, and what was hidden in the pine forests, the ruins, and the dead signals of New Jersey is still out there, waiting. Lock your doors, put on your headphones, and pull the blanket up tight, because after this video, you'll never see New Jersey the same way again. The sealed signals of Fort Monmouth, frequencies that never stopped. Fort Monmouth, New Jersey, decommissioned but not silent. Some bases go dark, some go silent, and some keep transmitting. On the edge of Eatontown, New Jersey, just miles from suburban homes and quiet roads, sits the abandoned remains of Fort Monmouth, a U.S. Army installation once at the core of military communications and top-secret research. It was officially shut down in 2011, but locals say it never truly went offline. Built in 1917, Fort Monmouth played a role in everything from early radar experiments to satellite surveillance and even classified psychological operations during the Cold War. Part of the fort was open, functional, documented, but another part, underground, restricted, and now completely sealed. When it closed, several of the underground corridors weren't dismantled, they were simply welded shut without public explanation. In 2012, just months after the shutdown, a group of amateur radio operators, scanning old military bands, picked up something strange. A pulse signal, repeating, in Morse-like rhythm, but not any known code. It ran for 3 minutes, then vanished. When triangulated, the signal pointed to one place, Sector 4, the old signal processing block beneath Fort Monmouth. Since then, the same group and others have picked up versions of the signal intermittently. No ID, no carrier, just a low hum, followed by clicks and symbols no one's been able to decode. At first, they thought it was old tech sputtering out, but the pulses are too precise, too patterned, and they've been recorded from as far as Connecticut and Pennsylvania, always pointing back to the same location. One radio tech said, "Whatever's down there is still listening, or worse, still answering." Explorers have tried to access the sealed bunkers. There are maps, unofficial, hand-sketched, that show stairwells cut off mid-descent. One urban explorer claimed he found a metal door welded shut, with warning paint faded beneath the rust. Spray painted over it were 3 letters, DPL. No one knows what it stands for, and no one has opened the door. Military officials deny anything unusual. They say all transmitters were disabled. The site is inactive, but nearby residents report otherwise. Strange clicking sounds picked up on baby monitors at night. Phones losing GPS signal when driving past the south perimeter. A shortwave beacon tone that plays once every few weeks, then cuts out mid-transmission. One woman said, "It's like something wakes up down there, talks for a bit, and then goes quiet again." Former base personnel refused to talk. One retired operator, who lived just outside the grounds, gave a single comment to a local paper. "There are machines under Monmouth that were never meant to stop." Horby found. Then he moved. No forwarding address. The government has released no further records. Developers trying to repurpose the land have hit repeated delays. Zoning blocks. Legal freeze orders. Reasons that don't match the paperwork. Locals think it's intentional, because something is still on beneath Fort Monmouth. And it doesn't care if you're listening, in fact, as it might want you to. Some signals repeat themselves. Others erase everything they touch. And in the heart of New Jersey's Pine Barrens, there was once a town so strange, some say it blinked out of existence on purpose. The Vanishing Hamlet of Hat, the experiment that erased itself. Pine Barrens, New Jersey, 1700s to 1990s. Some places vanish over time, others vanish all at once. And deep in the forests of southern New Jersey, there's a clearing where no birds sing. No trails stay marked, and every map tells a different version of what used to be there. Its name was Hat. The official story is simple. In the 1700s, a small settlement called Hat was founded by a man named Jacob Ong. There was a tavern, A few homes, and eventually, nothing. The town disappeared. No population, no ruins, no records. By the 1800s, it was gone from all official maps. But that's just the beginning. In the 1980s, strange pamphlets started circulating through underground science circles and mail-order catalogs. They spoke of a group of rogue scientists, mystics, and ex-military personnel who had formed a secluded collective in the Pine Barrens, right on the site of the old Ong's Hat. They called themselves the Institute for Chaos Studies, and they claimed to be working on something that no one else dared to touch: interdimensional travel. According to the documents, the group developed a device they called the Egg, a portable isolation chamber that could manipulate consciousness and shift it between dimensions. The result? Test subjects who vanished and reappeared with different memories, or didn't reappear at all. Some supposedly escaped permanently to what they called Alternate Earth 1. Others were lost. For years, people dismissed it as an elaborate hoax, an ARG, alternate reality game, ahead of its time. But then, researchers started digging and found something stranger than fiction: a real location where the collective was said to have operated. A network of BBS, early internet posts from the 1980s, referencing coordinates and access protocols, mentions of Ong's Hat in obscure military documents tied to experimental remote viewing programs, and most disturbing of all, no official land record matching the exact coordinates provided in the documents. In the 1990s, a man named Joseph Matheny tried to trace the origins of the story. He said the more he investigated, the more people began backing away. One source told him, "It was never meant to leak out. You've already said too much." Shortly after, the entire online archive of Ong's Hat-related documents disappeared. Today, the only thing left of Ong's Hat is a clearing in the Pine Barrens. No sign, no ruins, just flat earth surrounded by twisted trees. Visitors report a constant low ringing in the ears, compass needles spinning briefly before stabilizing, feelings of being watched from inside the tree line, a metallic smell in the air during windless days. One explorer said, "I don't think it's haunted. I think it's doff, like the rules of space don't work right here. No one lives there. No town has ever been rebuilt, and locals won't say the name out loud because some still believe Ong's Hat was real, that the experiment worked, and that something came back through. Not a ghost, not a creature, just as a doorway that never fully closed. And if you stand there long enough, if you stop moving, you might hear the hum, like a low engine or a heartbeat, but not yours. Gancho para o próximo misterio." Some places disappear, others stay standing, even after what's inside has rotted. And in the Pine Barrens, there's a forge that hasn't burned coal in 100 years, but still rings with the sound of work and something screaming to get out. The echoes of Batstow Furnace, voices in an empty factory. Batstow Village, Wharton State Forest, Esther 1766. Some buildings decay in silence, others refuse to go quiet, and in the heart of New Jersey's Pine Barrens, there's a foundry where no fires burn, no metal glows, but the sounds never stopped. Batstow Village is real, a preserved ghost town in the middle of a dense forest. Once a bustling ironworking community during the 18th and 19th centuries, now it's a historic site, open to visitors during daylight hours. But there's one building people don't stay near after dark: the furnace. Built in 1766, the Batstow Furnace once ran night and day, producing cannonballs during the Revolutionary War, smelting ore from the earth beneath New Jersey. Hundreds worked there, hammering, sweating, shouting over the roar of fire. Today it stands still, cold, empty, but people say it still works. Since the 1980s, security guards, forest rangers, and even tourists have reported sounds coming from the sealed building: hammering, screeching metal, the rhythmic grind of machinery, and voices low, muffled, like instructions being shouted over heat, except there's no heat and no one inside. In 2009, a maintenance crew reported hearing what they thought was a group of teenagers inside the furnace after hours. They called for backup. When they opened the gate, the sound stopped. Instantly, no one was found, no signs of entry. The air inside was ice cold. A paranormal group investigated in 2015. They captured audio recordings of clanging metal, followed by a deep inhale, as if something just took a breath from behind the brick wall. They never published the footage. They said it was inconclusive, but one of the crew left this comment anonymously online. We didn't hear it until playback. It was louder than everything else, and it was breathing in rhythm, like it was working. The furnace has no power, no moving parts. It's sealed from the public. So where are the sounds coming from? Locals have their own theories. Some say it's residual energy, the sounds of 200 years of labor burned into stone. Others believe a worker died inside the furnace, trapped in the ore chamber, and his spirit never left the shift. And a few claim the sounds aren't from the past at all. They're from something still there, still hammering, still building, but not for us. Visitors say the forest goes silent near the furnace. No wind, no birds, just the faint tap of metal, like something underground, still wants out. The site is protected, but no one watches it overnight anymore. Rangers rotate early. Guards report headaches, vertigo, nausea, always near the furnace. Never anywhere else. Some say if you put your hand against the brick and wait, you'll feel the vibration, like a machine still running deep inside the wall. And if you hear your name, don't answer, because whatever is echoing out of that place might be trying to echo in. Some buildings make noise, others watch in silence. And in a village that shouldn't exist, there's a chapel no one dares enter twice, because the second time, the doors aren't where you left them. The sealed chapel of Feltville, the building that breathes. Feltville Historic District, Watchung Reservation, New Jersey. Some towns die with time, this one just paused, and at the center of it, there's a chapel that doesn't decay, doesn't collapse, doesn't age like the rest, because it's not empty, it's breathing. Feltville is real. Locals call it the deserted village. Tucked into the Watchung Reservation, it's a collection of 19th century homes, a general store, a carriage house, and a chapel. Built by David Felt in 1845, the place was once a utopian industrial community, but it didn't last. People left. Buildings rotted. The forest took back most of it, except the chapel. Tourists visit Feltville during the day. It's open, historical, even charming at first glance. But ask the park rangers what happens at night, and their answers get quiet. The chapel is small square, 2 stories, but visitors have described seeing more than that. Doors that open to blank walls, stairwells that weren't there earlier that day, windows with lights on when the building is locked and powerless, and most unsettling of all, rooms that seem to move. One ranger reported walking the perimeter and spotting a second-floor window that had never existed before. He looked again. Gone. A photographer swore she found a basement door and took 3 photos. When she developed the film, the door was gone. Just smooth brick. She never returned. In 2003, a group of students stayed overnight with permission during a historic preservation event. Around 2:17 a.m., one of them wandered off from the main house, drawn by a light from the chapel. He entered through the front. He came back 40 minutes later. He said, "It had too many rooms. I walked in a straight line and ended up behind myself." He refused to talk about what he saw upstairs. He dropped out of the program 2 weeks later. Local myths claim Feltville was cursed, that the chapel was built on a spot considered unclean by native tribes, but there's no official record, no grave markers, no explanation, only patterns. Every year in early October, multiple visitors report lights in the second story at exactly 3:12 a.m., a bell that rings once, though the chapel has no bell. A child's voice echoing from inside, but no children are allowed after dusk. A technician who went to check for rodents said, "The walls, they weren't solid. They felt like skin stretched tight." He requested reassignment the next day. There are no modern renovations in the chapel, no electricity, no plumbing, and no one can agree on how many rooms it has. Some say 5, some say 7. One man said he counted 9 before the front door vanished behind him. Today, the building is still there, still square, still standing, but if you walk past it and the shadows shift just right, you might see a window blink or a reflection that doesn't match you, and if you do, keep walking, because whatever that chapel was built for, it never left. Some places twist space, others hide what they were built to bury. And deep in the pine barrens, beneath moss and silence, there's a place no one admits exists, where the bones don't match the maps. The Watchers of Bear Swamp. They never blinked. Bear Swamp Natural Area, Cumberland County, South Jersey. Some predators stalk, others just watch. And deep in the southern forests of New Jersey, where the air is thick and the trails are barely carved, there's a place where people stopped camping. Not because of what they heard, but because of what didn't move. Bear Swamp is dense, older than the towns around it, flooded in parts, filled with moss, and silent in ways that aren't natural. Hunters say it's one of the best places to disappear. Some meant that as a compliment, others didn't. It started with a man in 1978. He was bow hunting near a patch of cedar trees when he noticed something. A figure standing behind a tree, about 40 yards ahead. It didn't move, didn't flinch, didn't react when he called out. He assumed it was another hunter, until he took a step closer, and it stepped behind the tree without a sound. When he got to the spot, no footprints, no trail, no figure, just silence. Heavy, staring silence. He told his story to friends. They didn't laugh, because they'd seen it too. In the decades since, Bear Swamp has collected stories like moss, campers waking up to find figures standing just inside the tree line, hikers losing time after passing between two specific oaks, eyes reflecting light, but blinking out instantly when noticed. Figures that don't chase, just pivot to face you. Always watching, never closer, never further, just there. The locals call them the Watchers. Not ghosts, not cryptids, not shadows. Something in between. They don't speak, they don't run, they don't seem curious, but they always notice you first. In 2005, a group of teens went off trail and claimed to have found a circle of stones, each with a stick figure carved in the middle, 12 total. At the center, an animal skull, but polished and cut with symbols they didn't recognize. When they returned a week later to show friends, the circle was gone. No stones, no symbols, just swamp. One of them refused to talk about it again. The others only said, "We felt like we were being counted." Hunters now mark certain trees in Bear Swamp, not for directions, but as warnings. 2 red slashes, "Don't stop here." 3 vertical, "Turn around now." Game wardens say the area has a naturally disorienting effect due to magnetic minerals. But that doesn't explain the voices some people report hearing, not whispers, but their own names spoken low from just ahead. One park volunteer said he saw a figure crouched behind a tree, head tilted sideways. When he stepped toward it, the figure stood straight up, much taller than expected, and turned slowly and without a face. He ran. He doesn't work there anymore. The state doesn't acknowledge anything unusual about Bear Swamp, no reports, no warnings, but locals know. They know to keep moving, to never return to the same spot twice, and above all, never make eye contact. Because once the watchers see that you've seen them, you belong to the forest now. Some watchers wait, others bury. And beneath a stretch of forest no one maps correctly, there's a clearing where bones surface after storms, and no official ever comes to look. Because what was hidden there wasn't meant to stay buried. The Unmarked Mass in Pine Barrens, bones the maps forgot. Between Shamong and Chatsworth, Pine Barrens, New Jersey. Some things are left off the map by mistake, others on purpose. And in the deepest stretch of New Jersey's Pine Barrens, far from the trails, deep into the parts without names, there's a place locals won't mark. Not because they don't know where it is, but because they do. They call it the Unmarked Mass, a clearing that doesn't stay on GPS, a patch of forest where no trees grow right, and where, after hard rains, bones appear. Not fossils, not animal remains, human bones. It started in 1975, when 2 mushroom hunters reported finding a skull lodged between the roots of a fallen pine. No jaw, no name, no missing person match. The authorities retrieved it, filed it, and said nothing more. But that wasn't the last time. Every 5 to 10 years, someone else finds something. Teeth, ribs, fragments of spine, and once, a child's shoe, buried with a femur beside it. Always scattered, never in one grave. No markers, no crosses, no dates, just bones and silence. Locals say the ground there softens weird after rainfall, like it's still shifting, still settling. Some hikers report sinking up to their knees in dirt that looks dry. Others swear they heard voices, not words, just breath, beneath them as they struggled to pull free. In 1991, a state surveyor sent to mark fire lines refused to finish the job. His report said, found unusual depression in quadrant 6C, soil unstable, echo effect beneath surface, possible hollow. 2 days later, That section of the report was redacted. There are rumors of what this place was: a dumping ground during Prohibition, an off-the-books military holding zone during WY2, or worse, a camp for relocation during the post-war housing overflow. None of it is confirmed. But the bones are real. A former game warden once gave a comment under anonymity. "I saw at least 3 bodies worth of remains out there. Told my superior, got transferred 2 weeks later. Today, there's no sign, no access point, no name. The land is technically public, but only in paperwork. No roads reach it, no trails go through it. And every time someone tries to document it, something erases the way back." One urban explorer said his drone lost signal above the clearing. When recovered, the footage showed just forest. But the GPS log said, no data. Hikers who return from there say the forest felt wrong. They come back tired, numb, sometimes confused. One woman claimed she left with only 20 minutes of footage, but her battery was fully drained. When she watched the file, there were 4 minutes she didn't remember filming. In it, she's standing still, looking directly at the camera, not blinking. The pine barrens are massive, millions of trees, hundreds of forgotten roads, and dozens of secrets. But only one place where bones don't stay buried, and where silence feels like it's protecting something or someone. So if you ever find yourself between Shamong and Chatsworth and the wind drops and the soil feels soft, don't dig, don't ask, and don't bring anything home, because what was left in that clearing was never meant to be found. Some mysteries stalk, some whisper, some ring from buildings that no longer breathe, but the darkest ones were buried deep by people who never meant for us to find them. And sometimes, when we get too close, the ground answers back. Let us know in the comments which mystery stayed with you, and what state should we uncover next, because some places are still listening.